We poor people in the West, in Europe and the Americas, don't reach those types.
고려는 코리아라는 이름을 세계에 알릴 만큼 500년간 찬란한 문화를 꽃피웠습니다. 최고 수준의 문화 수준을 향유했던 만큼 고려 청자를 비롯한 예술과 문화 또한 발달했죠. 하지만 실존 유물과 관련 문헌이 절대적으로 부족해 고려 문화 연구가 활발하지 못했던 아쉬움이 있습니다. 고려 청자는 청록색 계열의 빛을 띠며 영어로는 이름 그대로 고려 셀러단이라고 합니다. 고급 청자의 푸른 빛은 따로 푸른 색소를 넣은 것이 아닙니다. 비색 청자에 쓰이는 유약은 보석의 일종인 만호석과 장석, 석회를 섞어 만든 것인데요. 고온의 가마에서 굽는 동안 유약 층안 쪽에 수많은 미세한 기포가 생기고 두텁게 부풀어 올라 유리질 속에서 빛이 산란되어 아름다운 푸른 유리빛을 띠게 만드는 것입니다. 이 방식으로 청자를 만들 수 있었던 것은 고려와 중국 둘뿐이었습니다. 따라서 다른 나라에서는 이 색을 복제하기 위해 녹색 물감을 섞어 나하는 시도도 많았습니다. 하지만 그 누구도 따라올 수 없었습니다. 고려 청자는 이름대로 고려시대에 주로 제작되었지만 그 시작은 통일신라 후기인 9세기로 추측됩니다. 또한 고려 청자는 매우 정교하고 화려한 고려시대 미술품의 대표적인 걸작으로 세계 도자기 발전사에서 빼놓을 수 없는 명품입니다. 크리스틴 뉴욕의 고위 컨설턴트이자 캔자스 대학교 예술역사 부서교수를 역임한 뒤 하버드 대학교 예술박물관에서 동양예술부서장으로 일하고 있는 로버트 모우리는 46년 전 고려 청자를 처음 본 순간 완전 희마음을 빼앗겼습니다. 1976년 평화봉사단으로 처음 한국을 방문한 모우리는 2년간 한국에 머무르며 한국 예술에 푹 빠지게 됩니다. 한국의 길고 깊은 역사를 알게 되면서 한국 문화와 예술품에 대해 연구하고 싶은 마음이 가득했지만 당시 가난했던 한국은 예술과 문화를 공부하기엔 어려운 상황이었습니다. 다시 미국으로 간 그는 아시아의 문화를 연구하게 되었고 이 분야의 전문가가 되었는데요. 로버트 모우리는 이후 중국 정부의 후원을 받아 중국미술사 큐레이터, 중국고미술연구가, 중국도자기 도록 작가이자 편집자로도 활동하고 있죠. 따라서 그가 마음을 빼앗긴 한국 문화에 대해 설명할 때도 중국의 눈치를 볼 수밖에 없는 상황인데요. 하지만 그에게는 숨길 수 없는 한 가지가 있다고 합니다.
Fortunately, it's not in my museum, it's not in your museum, but it's in the Art Institute of Chicago. It's a little oil bottle, no more than about 3 or 4 inches high, but it has the most exquisite carving that you can imagine. And here is one of those places where I would emphasize that Korean celadons, at their very best, are every bit the technical and aesthetic equal of the very best contemporaneous Chinese ceramics. One really cannot say that about the Chinese-style ceramics produced by any other culture. Here, this is every bit the aesthetic and technical equal of Chinese ceramics of the day. I am now persona non grata in China, but nonetheless, I think it's true. It is an absolutely perfect glaze, and you cannot imagine more perfect, more beautiful carving than on this little bottle. Now, for this crowd, probably everyone in the room knows exactly where Korea is. Korea is right here. It's a peninsula in Northeast Asia. The line that passes through there is the 38th parallel, which has had a real significance only since the end of World War II. But it's the 38th parallel that divides North Korea from South Korea. If you're wondering where it runs in the United States, on the East Coast, it's roughly Charlottesville, Virginia, in the Midwest. So that's the division today. Like I say, before 1945, it was one unified country, but that's of the Three Kingdoms period. This stretches basically from about the time of Christ in the West, coincidentally, down until the peninsula was unified politically and governmentally for the first time in 668. But before 668, it's broken into 3 basic kingdoms. And then there was a little confederacy, which you might call the 4th kingdom of the 3 kingdoms period. But the principal kingdoms are Pekche in the southwest, Shilla in the southeast, and then Goguryeo, which was very large, extended into what today is Manchuria. Manchuria up here, this is the dividing line for Korea today. That is the border of North Korea with China. But in the Three Kingdoms period, the Goguryeo kingdom was very, very large one. What we will look at anticipating the development of the Celadons is basically going to come from down here in the southeast, the Shilla kingdom, a few things from the Kaya kingdom. As we'll see based on the works of art tonight, During most of Korea's history, it was a very wealthy nation that produced surpassing works of art, which they were able to do not only because of knowledge, sophisticated techniques, but also because of the wealth. And the wealth in the Three Kingdoms period, in, say, the 5th, 6th century, is symbolized by gold crowns like this, which were used by the rulers, and other gold materials as well. Some kind of ritual belt, probably not for religious purposes, but probably a mark of royalty, a mark of status, and such. And for use in certain palaces and such, there were even gold vessels. And we will see that some of these gold vessels, dating to the 5th and 6th centuries, would influence the shape and the appearance of ceramics of the period. But I show these as evidence of the wealth during that period. It is not glazed. Glazing doesn't really become widespread in Korea until the Koryo dynasty with the Celadons. But the reason it's important to introduce this early ware is that it's not just a matter of adding glaze to a ceramic piece. To have a beautiful Celadon glaze, like we're going to see, it has to be a very high temperature fired ceramic ware. We can more or less judge a particular society or civilization's level of technological achievement by looking at the metalwork that they produce and also by looking at the ceramics. The reason for that, it's not a matter of looking at the beauty of the pieces, it's a matter of looking at the technology that went into it. It is difficult to produce kilns that can reach the high temperatures necessary to fire this kind of ceramic ware. But what that means, it has to be fired in a kiln that can reach and sustain temperatures in the range of 1100 to 1200 degrees centigrade. There was not a continuous history of firing ceramics at that temperature, but they were first able to do it then. The next people in the world to do it were the Japanese, learning from the Koreans and indirectly from the Chinese, probably in, Mary Beth will correct me, but 5th century, some of those early pots look like these. When we get to the next peoples are in the Southeast Asia, 10th, 11th, 12th century, and we poor people in the West, in Europe and the Americas, don't reach those temperatures until, say, 16th, 17th centuries. So we're something of laggards when it comes to these kinds of things. But it indicates the high degree of technological prowess, and had they not developed the skill to do that, the techniques to produce kilns of that type, they would not have been able to produce Celadon wares. And the 19th century, the first part of the 20th century, were difficult periods for Korea, most admittedly. There was an economic decline in the 19th century. There was Japanese colonization from 1910 until 1945. During the first part of the 20th century, there was World War II, there was the Korean War. Of course there were hardships, but that is an historical anomaly. During much of Korea's history, Korea was a very, very wealthy kingdom, particularly the southeast, Shilla. We poor people in the West, in Europe and in the Americas, don't reach those temperatures until, say, 16th, 17th centuries.
여러분의 소중한 의견을 남겨주세요. 바쁘시더라도 구독과 좋아요 부탁드립니다. 지금까지 단골이시였습니다. 시청해주셔서 감사합니다.